Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of This is Leadership, your intersection between growth and leadership. And today, my friends, I'm so happy to have my guest today for the podcast, Robert Breyer. Robert resides in Broadway, uh,
North Carolina.
North Carolina. You know what? I'm going to keep it like that because I've said it 3 times and I miss it again. And see, I'm Canadian, so I don't know all the abbreviations for the states, but it is North Carolina. Rob, thank you very much. So Robert is in North Carolina with his wife and their 4 children. He serves as an elementary school principal for the past 5 years and an assistant principal at the elementary, middle school, and high school levels for the 5 years before that. Robert is a graduate of King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where he received his Bachelor's of Arts in Elementary Education. Later on, he received his Master's of School Administration from the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Robert continues to lead in schools and also makes time to coach aspiring leaders who are looking to make the transition from teacher to administration. And I'm really excited, Robert, to talk about your book in regards to that. He is also the host of the Guiding Principles podcast, where he allows visionary school leaders to share the story of their own leadership and success in the hopes that it will inspire future school leaders. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for you and that you're doing an English podcast, and it's just an honor to be on here.
Well, you know what? I'm so happy I'm doing it because obviously, we're 2 people that really believe in growth. And to grow, we know that we have to put ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And you know me, Robert, I've had a French language podcast for the last 4 years. And I said, you know what? I'd really like to get into, receiving some English speaking guests as well. So I put myself outside my comfort zone and said, you know what, let's go. We're going to record some podcast episodes in English. So really happy you're there with me to be able to live that experience and to help me grow. I'm excited to talk to you about your book. I'm excited to talk to you about, your leadership style, why you're in leadership, why it's important for you to develop other people. So really looking forward to that this conversation, Robert. And I'm really glad you're here with us.
Hey, I'm so excited. So, we met 7 years ago in Danny
7 years
Bauer's
already.
mastermind program. And
that's right.
We've been friends ever since. And then I had you on my podcast, and I'm excited to just get a chance to sit here and talk to you again. So it's been too long since we've had a chance to really sit down and talk. So this is exciting for me.
Absolutely. And I know, Rob, that you've got lots going on with you, in the last couple months. I know that, let's start with maybe, what's coming up this year. I know that you're in a new position, right?
I am. So actually today, this morning, I got to go to my former district, and
Okay.
I officially resigned from that district this morning. And then I got to spend the afternoon at my new school and kind of get introduced to the new school, the new environment. So that was really exciting. This year, so I have been for the past 5 years. I was a elementary school principal of a really tiny school in Moore County Schools, 250 kids at most.
Okay.
But it was a really exciting opportunity, and I'm just really bonded with that community. And now I'm actually taking a step forward, and I'm going to a school that's over 550 kids.
Wow.
But it is pre-K through 2nd grade. So like you were talking about earlier about that whole idea of growth, like this is really going to push me to really help my instructional coaching piece, especially in the area of reading and really being focused on teaching children how to read. So I'm excited for the challenge, and I'm looking really forward to this upcoming school year.
Wow, that's really exciting. And talk about, talking about challenges going from a school of, roughly 250 students to doubling that. And I'm assuming you have a VP, right?
And this school now will have a full-time AP, so that's going to be
Oh,
and a lot of people are like, wait, you ran a school by yourself? Now I had an AP who was there 1 to 2 days a week.
okay.
But to have somebody there full time who's going to fully share in the vision, fully share in working with teachers and helping with the instructional coaching, like that's going to be a new experience for me. So that's going to really help me grow, because
Yeah.
now I got to learn to delegate a little bit more and how to go and share responsibility. So it's going to challenge my leadership and really help me to grow in certain areas.
Wow. I think that's great. And I know you're a firm believer in, shared leadership, Rob. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. You've got a full-time AP now. And when talking about that position, often when I think about it, I see people that are doing the job, and that, the things that they are doing in the school are a little bit more traditional. They'll do the discipline and the stuff that's maybe a little less interesting. And I've always said, it's so important to make sure that these assistant principals are growing as well. So how do you see yourself, going about it this year with the person that you're going to be working with?
Well, I mean, we do it all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all about leadership coaching, and it's providing people with those experiences and challenging them, giving them opportunity to lead, to take the lead role in different areas. So right now, my assistant principal is working on hiring.
Okay.
And she's like, Rob, I'm not used to having to do this. I'm like, yeah, but this is a great experience because this is a big part of our role. Because with my transition, I wasn't able to start on July 1st. So I was just able to start now in late August or beginning of August.
Okay.
So somebody had to be here getting these teachers coming in because we had a lot of openings at the school.
Mm,
And so she's been jumping in, like interviewing and asking questions and creating her questions. And just the other day, she sent me a message like, okay, so we have a guidance position open. I've never interviewed for a guidance position before. So
interesting.
what kind of questions do I? So we worked through the questioning, but giving them opportunities to lead from outside their normal box. Because like you said, when you think of APs, you think of buses, you think of
That's right.
discipline, you think of, going through and helping with observations, but you have to give them the opportunities to lead in more areas. And so that's something I really like to do. I do the same thing with my teacher leaders who are aspiring to become APs. You got to give them opportunities because when you walk into those interviews, people want to know what you've done in your school to lead in the school, what impact did it have on the school, and then how did you grow from that? And if you're not giving them those opportunities to actually take leadership roles, when they walk in, they're just going to be talking from a teacher perspective. And
Hmm.
that's not going to help them land that job that they want. So it's our job, in my belief, to give aspiring leaders the opportunity to take on leadership roles within your school.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the great ways is, your AP presently, who is actually coming up with the questions to ask, the people at the interview. I think that's a great process. I've lived it many times. And actually last year, we went through the same exercise and we ended up just stopping and saying, you know what, these questions that we're coming up with, are really giving us a great idea of what we want the person to be doing in that position. And what we came to realize, Rob, is that some of the positions, especially the leadership positions in school, like teacher leaders,
Mm-hmm.
coming up with questions at the interviews made us realize that, we need to take a look again at what the description of this job of this position is, of what the person is going to be doing. And
Yes.
we did that, and we realized that, geez, we were really out of touch with where we were going in terms of our vision and our objectives. And it allowed us to really redefine that position in terms of where we were going as a school board, as a system, and as a school. So it's a great exercise.
Absolutely. And, that is really important to do because what I find is that when we get into this role, and the longer you're in the principal role, the more out of touch you kind of get with some of the
Yeah.
stuff that's happening. Like we forget what it's like to be a teacher. We forget those beginning of the year struggles. Like I had somebody today go like, man, teachers are banging down the door. They're trying to get in the school because they want to get their room set up. And it's
Yes.
like, you got to take a moment to step back. Like I remember that feeling. Like I'm watching my wife go through it right now because she's a first grade teacher. And we have to take that step back and really kind of reflect on what are they going through? What do we need to do to help make things easier for them? And like I open my school as soon as my rooms are ready, my school's open. I start
Mhm.
inviting teachers in. I give them a schedule for cleaning so they know when their rooms are going to be available. It's those small things that we can do that's going to make their lives a little bit easier. And we have to take time to reflect back to what was it like when we were in the classroom? What are
Absolutely.
the responsibilities? And you're absolutely right. When you're looking at interviewing, are we asking the right questions? Because it's
Yes.
so important to ask the right questions because each position is different. And we got to make sure that we're really identifying the right people who are going to be right fit for our school, but they're going to buy into our vision and believe in what we're going to believe. And it's not always the most qualified people I'm looking for. Sometimes I'm looking for people that can coach up,
That's right.
and help them develop so they're a perfect fit for my school. So this job's tough. And I think the more opportunities we can provide others to grow, the better our schools are going to become.
Yeah, absolutely. Together we can always go further. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So speaking of leadership development, what, Robert, I'm curious to know your point of view of this. It's important for me, and I've got the reasons why leadership development is important to me. But for you, Rob, Why is it important for you when thinking about your staff, your teachers, and everybody that's on your staff? Why is it important for you for them to be developing and growing?
That's funny you talk about that, but like to me, it's just so important that because the truth is I don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
And when you walk in, like we don't know everything about everything, and we're just like everybody else. We're learning as we go. But the more people that you have around you that have the knowledge and have the experiences, the better off your school is going to be. Because what if you're not there at that moment? You know that you have an AP or a VP, and you have some teacher leaders who can step in and jump in and keep that school running.
Hmm.
One of the best things that somebody ever said to me was, you succeed in your school when you're not able to be on campus and your school still runs successfully.
Absolutely.
And I think that means a lot. And through the development of teacher leaders and developing your administration team, if you can make that happen, you're doing a great job in leading your school.
Yeah, building that efficacy is so important,
Absolutely.
because, like you said, we can't do it alone. Especially when you're you're at 500 students in your school. But even if it's less, and I've known, where I'm from. I'm in Ontario, Canada, and in our community, in our school board, we don't have huge schools. We're talking
Yeah.
schools of 150 students, 200 students, 250. So they're not big, but it doesn't matter the size, right? It takes a village, right, to be able to get our kids ready for life. That's what we want to do.
Absolutely.
So, and everybody can bring something different at the table, and every person that we meet, I believe that they know something that I don't, so we can always learn from these people.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So, um, it's that old saying that the smartest person in the room is the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think that holds so true. And for me starting over at a new school, like that's one of the most exciting things for me is walking in and being able to work with these teachers and grow new leaders and really help them develop their skills. Because a lot of people, like I talk to other principals and they get upset when their teachers leave to take on administration roles.
Yeah.
And for me, like that's the most exciting point because that's a reflection on the work that I've done with them. And if they are qualified now to go and lead at other schools, like that says a lot about the work that we're doing. So my advice to principals is really encourage your people, help them grow. And when they leave, remember that's a reflection on the work that done with them, that you've helped them grow. And now you get to watch them grow into a school leader. Like that's exciting. And take the joy in that. Yes, does it stink having to hire somebody new and train somebody again and go through all that? Absolutely. But enjoy the part of watching them lead and watching them grow as a school leader. And I think that to me is just extremely rewarding.
Absolutely. And I can understand because, we're living through a teacher shortage pretty much, well, everywhere. It's the same
Absolutely.
thing here in Canada. We're going through the same thing. But, if we look at it globally, you're talking about watching people grow in front of you, and then eventually they'll leave the nest, right? And they'll become either assistant principals or principals, or something else. But just the fact that they're growing, and I think that it's got to be more than just about the person, or it's got to be more about us wanting to fill in a position. It's about growing that person, and then that person being able to go into another environment, another learning ecosystem, and
Yeah.
be able to really contribute 100% into that ecosystem and help reproduce other leaders, right? So, and leadership, we know everything rises and falls on leadership, and that's a quote from John Maxwell, right? If we don't
Yeah.
have that strong leadership, a school won't be as successful as it can be.
That's very true. You know, and the more, like you said, like the more leaders we produce, the more you have that ripple effect where they're continuing to grow. And for me, like I have a very strong philosophy on education and
Yeah.
the type of environment I'm trying to create. So creating leaders with that same mindset, like it's exciting for me to see the impact that, yeah, I'm having on this school, but then watching these leaders go off to these new schools and seeing that same impact at those schools. That's exciting for me because I think that when you start seeing that, you're seeing great things begin to happen in education. And I think so many people right now are focused on this teacher shortage
Yeah.
and they're not looking at all the great things that are still happening in education. Yeah, we're struggling, and yes, we are trying to find teachers, but folks, there's still amazing things happening in schools each and every day. And I think as educators, we need to do a better job of talking to people about why teaching is so important. And, like when you had these young people coming up and like, oh, I'm thinking about being a teacher, we got to stop saying, oh, no, 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 don't be a teacher right now. Like it's really
Mhm.
tough out there right now. We got to encourage them because this job is just so important. And what we do impacts our world in the future. And like we got to take a look at that and we got to highlight all the great stuff there is about teaching and being in education
Mhm.
and really get away from the naysaying and the hold on, like maybe you want to look at something else. And I mean, we've all been guilty of it where you get burnt out and you're run down and that
Yep.
person says, oh, I thought about becoming a teacher, like, and you have that bad day and you make a comment that you wish you could take back because I know there's so many kids that I've been talking to lately are talking about education, and I'm doing everything I can to encourage them. But then when you reach out to these colleges to find possible teacher candidates, and they're like, Rob, I only had like 5 kids enrolled this past semester.
Yeah.
That's scary. And so we need to do a better job of telling people how great education is and marketing how wonderful it is to be a teacher and get people excited. I just sat through a leadership meeting with my district, and
Mhm.
our associate superintendent of human resources, she made a comment about she was trying to find an inspirational video for teachers
Okay.
for our opening ceremony. 7 years ago was the newest inspirational video for teachers.
Hmm.
That's sad. Like we
Wow.
need to do a better job of marketing education and telling our story and getting people excited about becoming teachers. So that's my soapbox for that moment, but you got me on that tangent when you talked about teacher
No,
shortage.
but you know what? It's not just about getting, the new ones into the field. It's about keeping the ones that are there as well. And
Absolutely.
and when talking about, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that, Rob, for the people that are listening, because in my experience as a school principal, you know, uh, some teachers think that when we talk about professional development or professional learning, and that's what we're talking about, leadership development, some people think that, well, that's only for the ones, or for the people, only applies to the people that want to become a principal or an assistant principal. And it's, in fact, it's not. So can you talk to us a little bit about, when talking about leadership development, if I'm a school teacher, what does that mean exactly for me?
The leadership development doesn't have to be about going into administration. Leadership development is learning how to work with others, learning
Mm.
how to collaborate, learning how to share ideas. That idea of servant leadership isn't just for school administrators. That goes down. Like when you're a teacher, you're serving the kids in that classroom, you're serving your PLC or your team. And you got to learn to work together. Like so often you see teachers that are siloed and they're in their classrooms and they do their stuff and they kind of keep everything to themselves.
Yeah.
Education is so far beyond that. So teacher leaders are those people that are able to say, hey, come on, let's come together. What can we do? These students aren't achieving in this area, but I noticed that Miss Jones, you did a great job with this.
Mm.
Can you help us so we can all do a better job with our kids and help raise our numbers here? It is identifying needs and helping find solutions. It's not just identifying a concern and being and complaining about it constantly.
Yeah.
Teacher leaders are those who can say, okay, here's a concern, here's what we're going to do about it, let's implement this, and they're going to help guide and see it through. And if your school is going to be successful, you got to have those people in your school, people that are willing to take ownership of things and then see it through to the end because you can't be everywhere. In this job, you wear so many different hats and you're doing so many different things in a day. You need people that can take on those small areas and take on that small problem and help see it through to the end and find a solution so that you can focus on those bigger picture things. And so for me, that's really what developing those teacher leaders is about, helping people find their strengths and helping others see it through to the end to go and find solutions to problems we're facing every day.
Yeah, I love that, Rob. It's all about influence, right? Positive influence
Positive influence.
on your kids. If I've got, if I'm a classroom teacher, I've got kids in front of me, I have a positive influence and impact, on those students, but also on myself and my colleagues, right? So you were saying it's a collective, really, it's a collective effort,
Yes.
and everybody has to help everybody out inside that ecosystem, inside the school. That's really important. That's how we're able to advance and get ahead, is by not only solving challenges that we're having in our classroom, but sometimes I've got a coworker that might be having a challenge, and that I'm able to step up. And that is really assuming your leadership, is to step up and to be able to, to meet with that colleague and talk about it and exchange, winning strategies and whatnot. So I love that, Rob. It's not, leadership development is not only for people who aspire to go into an administrative role. It's about having a positive influence. It's about being solution oriented, and it's
Absolutely.
about growing.
Yes. And the truth is that leadership's a mindset. It's not a
Absolutely.
title. And so having that mindset, and exactly what you just said, it's about influencing others. It's about assisting others. It's about helping others grow and get better. And that's what we're all here to do. And so whether you carry the title of principal, teacher, TA, bus driver, it doesn't matter. Use your influence to have a positive impact on everybody you work with, and your school will be successful.
I think you touched on something really important, Rob, that mindset piece. Thinking back to when, like for me, in my experience, when many years back, when I realized the importance of leadership and leadership development and the importance of growing myself, it's like a light switch went off. And ever since that time, it's like it's given me that positive mindset, right? Where I can have bad days, but because I'm in that framework, that mindset of leadership, of growth, it's almost like as if it's a constant, it's giving me constant hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day. Tomorrow still has potential. Tomorrow can be different, or tomorrow can be even better than what it was today or yesterday. So I find that really interesting because it actually impacts me as a person as well. Right.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's not just my work, but being, having that leadership mindset that of always wanting to develop actually pushes me, or helps me to be like in a better mood. It helps me to have to look at things and be positive. And it also helps me that whenever I do have a bad day, or I'm in a rut, it allows me to, it gives me the tools necessary to be able to get out of that rut and get back into that positive mindset.
And I love a quote by Simon Sinek about the goal is not to be perfect. The goal
Yeah.
is to get better every single day. And that's what I'm here to do. Like, do I have bad days? Absolutely. There are days I go home and going, oh gosh, and when I sit and reflect, I think about all the mistakes I made. But I also think about, you know, good leaders, I think, reflect on, yes, the mistakes you made, but they also reflect on the positive stuff that happened, like the impact that they had. And then I always say to myself, what can I do better tomorrow to make sure I impact more people and I have more of an influence, or an impact on those people moving forward. And I think that's just so important because your mindset, when you walk into that school, I don't care what happened at home. I don't care what happened on that ride in. When you hit that campus, you got to be excited. You got to
Mm-hmm.
be ready to go because your energy is contagious. And it
That's right.
starts from the second you walk on that campus. First person you say hello to, first high five you give to that kid, the first hug that you give. Those are all things that set the tone for that day. And if you don't come in that positive mindset and that positive attitude, you're now not knowingly, but you could have a negative impact on the people around you. So come in, be positive. One of the best advice I've ever got when I was going into administration was fake it till you make it. And so, I know there's been days I've come in and maybe my wife and I had a fight, or, my
Yeah.
dog's sick, or my kids this morning, they dumped milk over the floor and I had to clean up before I came to work.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. When I come in, I got that smile on my face and I'm excited and I'm ready to go because I know the work that we're doing here is extremely important. And when I get onto this campus, there's just this energy that fills me and I'm excited to be there. I'm out greeting parents at car rider. I'm walking up and down that line, just saying hello. Some mornings you'll see me out there and I'll buy cases of Coke and I'll bring them in. I'll just give each parent, give them a Coke and a smile. And
Yeah.
that's what we call it. And I hand them a Coke because we got to remember to take time to thank even those parents because they're taking time to bring their kids to school every day and making sure
Absolutely.
they're at school on time. So I try to make sure I find ways to go and just do something nice for them and just recognize the fact that, hey, you're also doing incredible work. And I appreciate you having your kid here on time every day. But then I also go down and I see my cafeteria workers every morning
Mm.
and just get them ready for the day. Like, hey, we got our kids coming through.
Yeah.
I know we're serving pizza. Like, they're going to be excited. So we're going to have lots of kids coming through today. Y'all ready? And just kind of get them a little hyped up. But then I walk around checking my custodians, making sure that they're ready for today. And they'll hit
Absolutely.
me like, Rob, this bathroom is a mess this morning. That's okay. Let's get it cleaned up. Let's make sure it looks perfect because when those kids come in, they're going to be excited. Make sure you're walking around giving each of them a high five and just tell them how much you love them. Those are just small, important things because when you have those conversations in the morning and you take time to walk around your building and see those different people, they remember that and they appreciate that. And I believe that our mindset and our attitudes are contagious. And when we walk around with that positive mindset and that positive attitude, we set them up for that same thing. And when they're positive, now it's trickling down to our kids. And so when our kids feel that energy, it makes them more excited. So you know what? When they walk into that classroom and get ready for class, they're excited because of what happened in that cafeteria line when they got breakfast this morning, when that bus driver picked them up
That's
that
right.
morning. We got to all set the tone. And I think that's something important that you want to talk to everybody in your staff about. Set the tone in the morning, bringing that positive attitude. I don't care what happened before, be positive.
That's a great point. And it's not just for us, like I'll want to have that positive mindset
Yes.
and the growth and for myself, but it's what it can bring to others as well. Like you said, like there's some mornings we can walk into work and we didn't have a good morning.
Yeah.
But often, I'd get to work, and it's happened to me often as well. We're all human, and I'd get to work and I'm in a bad mood or whatever for whatever reason. But it didn't last very long because of the fact that other people in the building had that mindset as well. That importance of growth and being in that mode allowed me, to get into a better mood, so that, that bad mood only lasted maybe about, 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes. And before I knew it, I was laughing. So just that being able to support others is another good reason why we have to practice and we have to be intentional in terms of our mindset and the way we see things and the way we see, our contribution to that school community.
Absolutely. And I love that. And like you said, like when other people embrace that mindset, even when you're having a bad day, it instantly improves your mindset and it improves your attitude and your mood. And, like when I'm having that rough day, like, parents and they just tore me apart in that morning, I'm walking down to that classroom where I know it's going to be completely positive and exciting. And it's usually my preschool or my kindergarten classrooms because they're just so excited to be here. And when they see you, they're just so excited because, they're full of life and joy. And, oh, Mr. Breyer, we're doing this in class today. And like, Miss So-and-so has a puppet and she's going to be reading us a book today. Like, it's the small things that get them excited about it.
Absolutely.
And that re-energizes me and gets me ready to head off to my next classroom and do the next thing. So find that happy place in your school and visit as often as you need to keep that positive and that happy mindset. And then that way you're strong and you're ready to go each and every day.
Rob, do you have any exercises that you do that allows you to keep that mindset, or do you have any routines, specific routines that you do? Or
So I get up at 4 o'clock every morning
okay.
and I'm at the gym by 4:30. And I spend about 45 minutes, and it doesn't have to be like a brutal workout or high intensity cardio or something like that. Just getting there and doing something. And that's my time. My family's all asleep at that time.
Mhm.
I get up, I go, I have my protein drink and all that. I go to the gym, I work out. But that's my time that I spend, and I find myself reflecting. If I'm on the treadmill for 15 minutes, I'm reflecting on my day and what's coming up. And I'm also thinking through, okay, these are the things I want to accomplish today. These are
Okay.
the things I want to get done. And a lot of people like to write it down in a notebook and journal and all that. I'm not that person. For me, if I spend time thinking about it, that's not that opportunity. And I find that even when I'm working out on weights, like I'm still sitting there and like I'm doing my reps, but I'm still thinking about all these different things.
Yeah.
And that helps me mentally prepare for what's coming up that day because some of it might be stressful, but I'm working out that stress. And I'm also thinking through it. And I'm thinking of different scenarios and how I'm going to handle things. So when I actually get to school, like, okay, I'm all charged up. I just had a great workout. I'm showered, I'm clean. All right, here we go. And when I get out of my car, I'm excited because when I get out, like school's kicking off. Like you're seeing all these teachers, everybody start moving in position and get ready for that morning. That's exciting. And
Mm-hmm.
to see all that and see all the car riders out there and walking up and down talking to those parents. I just think it's important that we take care of ourselves and you've got to find time
Yeah.
for you. Self-care is so important, especially now with everybody burning out. You can't take the risk of yourself burning out and not being the best for the people that are there because like you're just talking about retention and recruitment. When you're trying to retain teachers, your attitude matters. If you're not excited about the job we're doing, they're not going to be excited. So you got to find a way to make sure that you're going home every day, you're recharging, getting excited, and coming back refreshed so you can be on top of your game. And so find your routine. Mine happens to be early morning because I like early mornings because it's peaceful. Everybody's still sleeping. I can get a lot done during that time. Find what works best for you.
Yeah, and that's great advice, Rob. I've got a very similar routine for the exact same reasons. I'm up very early at the gym, and for the same reasons that you've stated, my family's still sleeping, so I'm not actually losing time with them, right?
Yes.
Because they're still in sleeping in la la land, as we say.
Absolutely.
But it also allows me, once that workout is done and I get to school, for me it primes me, right? That's a great primer, and we're awake and we're ready to go. But for somebody else it might be something different. But I think the important piece that I take away from what you've said is you have to make the time, right? Mindset is something that we need to work on constantly. And there's no finish line when it comes to working on yourself. When it comes to growing, it's a race, and there's no finish line. We'll be working on that constantly throughout all our lives. But the important thing is that if, for the people that are listening, if you're finding yourself in a position or where you're a little bit more negative and you don't have that growth mindset and you're not enjoying your work anymore, I think one of the first questions that we need to ask ourselves is, am I making time for me? Yeah. And you can do it which way you want to. It could be exercise, it could be journaling, it could be listening to podcasts, it could be reading articles. But the important thing is that you're finding something for you.
Yes.
Not for somebody else. And like you said, to recharge, because we cannot give to somebody when our cup is empty.
Yep.
Right.
I agree. And and it's funny, like, it changes for me. Because it used to always be like, I used to be able to really recharge and re-energize by sitting down, listening to a podcast or reading a good book, but as my family changes and the dynamics of my job changed, so did my needs. And so I found that early in my career, like, I stopped going to the gym. I was kind of ignoring my health. And so when I was walking in, like, I was always tired and fatigued and wasn't necessarily at my best. And when you're not your best, I'm not giving the best to my staff and students. And so my needs began to change, and I started to identify those needs. And so as I identified them, I started to adapt and change my habits. I still listen to podcasts. When I'm on that treadmill, I got a podcast going, or I got a book being read by Audible. It just depends, but I'm still doing those things, but I'm doing more of, this is something I love to do.
That's right.
And this helps relax me. And a lot of people are like, how's that relaxing? You're at a gym. Folks, it doesn't matter if you're a gym person or maybe you like to paint. Get up in the morning and find time to paint, or find time at night. Some people like to write poetry. Those aren't my areas of expertise. So, going to the gym is something I enjoy to do. So take time, find time for yourself, because the more you take care of yourself, the better you're going to be for everybody else.
And those are great examples, Rob, because, if you're a teacher, if you're in education, that thing doesn't have to be related to your work. You mentioned painting, you mentioned it could be singing, it could be anything else that you're passionate about. And that will help you grow as a person, and guaranteed you'll be able to take something from that and apply it to the work that you do in the school. Right. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a book on, how to be a better teacher, what are the best strategies for reading. Yeah, those things are important. And if that's the work that you do, it's important to know those things. But when we're talking about, when we mention time for us, for me, it doesn't have to be work related. It could be something that you're just passionate about, that you love doing.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. And I think you hit it right on the head. Like, find something for you, and it's got to be for you. And that's, to me, that's the key.
Absolutely. So listen, Rob, great conversation. This is golden stuff for everybody that's listening. Rob, you did a thing a little while back. You wrote a book. And
yes, I did.
When you came out with that book and you announced it, I was so happy for you. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, how did he do it? That was probably my first question, but because I've thought many times to write a book as well. But so Rob, you are an author. You're the author of Taking the Leap, a field guide for aspiring school leaders. And that book is available. I'll have that in the show notes for the people. So if you want to go on the website, inspireleadership.ca, you'll see, people will see there's a section podcast, and we'll have the show notes there. But Rob, so Taking the Leap, tell us about the book. What is it? Who is it for? And, basically what motivated you to write this book?
Well, and a lot of it came from my own journey. And when we are going to school to become school administrators, I mean, that's exciting, right? Like, they get you all pumped up, and you're learning all this great stuff, and you're writing all these great papers, and you're talking about all these neat things. And then your program ends, and there's nobody there to help you along. And you don't know how nobody tells you like, okay, these are the people you need to contact, or these are skills you need to follow up on, or these are things that you need to do to go and build up your expertise in this area. There's no coaching or there's nothing for that. And so for me, I wanted to put a book out there that was going to help cover that gap between the time you finish your degree program to the time you land your first job. And so this
Okay.
book was really written for people who I wanted them to first start with the analysis piece. Analyze your leadership. Who are you as a leader? What do you believe in? What do you value? Because when you're creating a vision and a mission, like your values are embedded in that. So you got to know
Hmm.
what your values are.
Hmm.
But I also want to like, what's your leadership style? How are you going to approach things? Where are areas that you can grow? Where are areas that you're strong? Because when you're getting asked these questions in the interview process, like you got to be able to talk about these different things.
Okay.
And so the whole idea is it's walking you through strategies that are going to help you improve. And so it's a book, but it's also a workbook because there's a lot of activities in there that you can do. There's a lot of interactive things where that's going to cause you to sit down and you're going to read and you're going to look at and you're going to have to really kind of write out your answers to about why. And everything kind of builds upon each other.
Okay.
Then that leads you into the next piece, that reflective piece. Okay, so this is who I am as a leader. Here's the areas I need to grow. Who am I going to talk to? What am I going to do?
Mm.
And really start reflecting on what can I do to improve my skills and improve my strategies for how am I going to become a better school leader? And then it leads into the preparation part. Like, what do interviews look like? How is, what kind of questions are they going to ask me? What are the best strategies for approaching? How do I answer these type of questions? So I try to come up with some different strategies and ideas that are going to help them to mentally prepare for what an interview is going to be like, but
Okay.
then also what can I do to make myself better when I'm answering these questions? And then I pulled in the expertise from other school leaders from across the whole country, actually throughout the United States,
Wow.
not just the United States, but throughout the world, because I have different people from all over the place. And I wanted their expertise. And I wanted them to give some of their feedback. And I thought that was important because it's not just coming from me. Here's other leaders saying the same things about
Mm.
these same ideas
Mm.
and helping you grow as a school, as a potential school leader. So this book is going to help those teachers who are looking to become APs, those APs who want to take that next role into the principalship, or those principals who like, okay, I need to reflect because I want to start taking the next step into the next part of my career. Because every interview you go into, they want to know who you are as a leader, what impact you've had, and what areas you want to grow in, and
Mm.
what you could do. What do you bring to the table that's going to make their schools better? And you got to be able to talk to those. And that is exactly where my philosophy in the beginning of the show, when we were talking about coaching up potential school leaders,
Hmm.
like that's where it comes from. Like we got to give them opportunities to understand IEPs, individual educational plans,
Yeah.
and having them like working with guidance counselors, have them working with your school improvement team. You can simply take a teacher who's looking to become an AP and put them on your school improvement team as a note taker. That's
Mm.
not an elected position. So you can put them right in. And it gives them a chance to be a part of that and hear those conversations when you're talking about finances, and you're talking about school improvement. Have them work with your instructional coach if you're lucky enough to have one, and walk around with them for a day and spend some time like understanding like when you walk in this position, you're not only in charge of running a school, you're also the instructional leader of your school. How do you
Absolutely.
have those conversations?
Hmm.
One of the hardest things that I think that I had to learn was those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to go through what was called the Sandhills Leadership Academy. And it was very scenario based. They put you into a school and you followed the principal around for a whole entire year. But every Wednesday you sat through classes. And in this class, I remember one of the lessons was they come in and you're working on a project and they come in, they started pulling people one by one. And they
Hmm.
had 3 different rooms with 3 different scenarios. And I remember when I walk into this room, they're like, well, Mr. Breyer, you're the principal of this school, and this mom is extremely upset, so she needs help. And I walk down and there's this Hispanic woman sitting down there and she's just bawling and then just starts screaming at me in Spanish. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And I'm like, I'm using the best Spanish I have. And I'm like, un momento, por favor, no hablo español. And I'm
Okay.
trying to find somebody. And they're like, if you're the only person here, there's nobody here to help you speak Spanish. Good luck. And they just kept
Wow.
walking out. And she just kept going and going. And finally, it was my job to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? So I listened. I took time. I sat there and she was speaking to me in Spanish. I didn't understand a lot of it, but I took time to listen to her and I
Mm.
got her calm and I did my best to explain to her these are steps I'm going to take. And like I tried to reiterate what I understood in Spanish. But that was an amazing lesson. Like in the end, like I got her to stop crying. I got her to give me a minute till I could go find somebody to help her and get a solution for her. But that was the best experience because those are real life experiences that
That's
we
right.
don't get inside being a teacher
Hmm.
because somebody in your school's handling those situations for you. But to be put in that on the spot, no thinking about it, you just had to go and react. That was exciting. And so I'm not able to give those experiences to the people in the book, but to give them ideas of how they can go and get those experiences by working with different people in their school. So I think that's where the book is a little bit different than a lot of other leadership books out there. Is it's a workbook that's going to help you really kind of think about who you are as a leader, but it's also going to give you ideas of what can make you a better leader.
And that's what I appreciate about it is I love how it's divided in in those three sections, right? Analysis, reflection, and preparation. And this book isn't just for teachers or people that are aspiring to go. Like I think even a seasoned administrator can pick up your book, Rob, and really it would help him to be able to even go through that process of what is my leadership style, what are my goals, how am I growing, where am I going to go and get it, how can I get it. So I think it's a great book, and just in terms of helping somebody that doesn't really have a plan about how I can go about, or not even know how I can go about to growing, I think it provides you really a roadmap to be able to do that.
It does. And, it's funny because I remember I was just sitting down and the idea was I wanted to start a website that was going to help people and maybe do a podcast. And so I started writing down like, I had like 25 pages of notes that I was writing down. And I remember reaching out to a friend of mine. His name's Darren Papard. And so Darren owns Road to Awesome Publishing,
Okay.
but he was also a school superintendent. I reached out to him, not knowing that he's starting a publishing company, but just say, hey, like if I put this stuff out there, like, am I going to be stepping on toes? Like, am I going to have a bunch of superintendents like, oh, Rob, like, what are you doing? You're giving away a lot of our secrets for interviewing. Um, and so he read it and he's like, man, I love this. Like, this is great. And then he actually called me the next day. He's like, I'm going to set up a meeting with you. And I said, okay. And I thought he was just going to give me feedback on what I was
Okay.
writing.
Yeah.
And he actually called and said, I'm going to publish this. He's like,
Wow.
I want this to be my second book. I already have one book in the line. He's like, I want this to be I was like, you like, I'm not a writer. Like I don't know. Like,
Wow.
and he's like, write it, get it out there, put it out there and just give it to me and I will do the rest. And I'm just truly thankful to him because he's the one who encouraged me and really got the fire lit underneath me to get that book written. And then the support of my wife and kids. I mean, they were probably the most excited people about when I got the book publishing. And the neatest thing for me now is getting those LinkedIn messages from people I have no idea who they are,
Yeah.
but they're like, "Hey, Rob, I used your book this summer, and I just wanted to share with you that next year I'm going to be
Fantastic.
starting the school year as an assistant principal at this school." Or, "Hey, I've been in AP for the past 12 years. I've just been really defeated because I couldn't get a principalship job. I used your book this year, and I'm now the principal of this school."
Wow.
That's the most rewarding thing. Like,
Mm.
like people tell you all the time, like writing a book, you don't make a lot of money off of it.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
didn't do it for that fact. But man, the reward is just hearing those stories from people that are actually using the book and landing these different jobs and kind of getting out of the rut of, like, I've been trying for so long and I'm never going to be a principal for this reason. Well, they just had to get out of their own way and figure out what their path was. And now they're on the way and they're becoming principals. And that's the truly exciting part for me.
And another great way for you to act on your leadership, right, Rob? So you're adding value to others, you're helping people grow, and it's a different way to be able to to help people on their journey of growth and to
Yeah,
becoming whatever it is that they want to become, right? Because
absolutely.
you can use the book for either to prepare yourself for the interview, or just to plan out your improvement plan for yourself so that you can grow.
Just grow as a leader.
Absolutely.
Remember, growth is the most important thing we can do.
Wow. Well, that's great, Rob. So, Taking the Leap, a field guide for aspiring leaders, is available on Amazon. And you have a website as well, Rob, that you'd like to
I
mention where we
do.
can
It's
get the book?
rbleads.net.
Okay. So, rbleads.net. And I imagine we're able to order the books from there as
You
well.
can actually order a book from there and you can order signed copies if you want. And
Awesome.
then there's just a link directly to Amazon. And it is now currently out in a digital format as well on
Okay.
Amazon.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to add those links to the show notes for sure, Rob, so that people can get out there and buy your book. So listen, Rob, before we sign off, I want to touch on the podcast. Of course, you've got your own podcast as well, the Guiding Principles podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and some of the people that you've interviewed?
Well, so I have 3 seasons out there of I believe it's 3 seasons of recorded episodes. And basically the idea was every month I would talk to a new school leader
Mm.
and find out, like, the idea was to kind of listen to them. I wanted you to be able to build up your toolbox. So if you're an aspiring leader or a current school leader, like, get ideas from others, because I mean that's what we do, right? When we go to
That's right.
conferences, we listen to others talk about all the great things they're doing in their schools. So I wanted to take that same idea and give current leaders the platform to share their great things that they're doing in their school, in hopes that it would inspire other leaders to try those same things and make their schools better because of the stuff they were hearing on my show. And so I put that show out for a couple of years, and then I kind of took a step back after writing my book. And so now I'm kind of revitalizing the podcast, and I'm looking to make it more of an aspiring leaders podcast.
Okay.
The guiding principles, helping others grow and to take those next step into becoming a school leader. So you can look for probably new episodes coming out probably this winter. And I'm going to start putting out new episodes, and each week it's going to just be a new idea about what you can do to improve your leadership or your potential becoming a school leader.
Very exciting, Rob. Very, very exciting. So, of course, the podcast is available wherever you can download any podcast. I imagine it's
Absolutely.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Anything that I use Anchor, and then it's also out there on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
You can also find it on Spotify.
That's great, Rob. Listen, wow, you got the book going, you got the new position going, you got the podcast. Listen, Rob, so before I let you go here, last question I'd like to ask you, for the people listening to us today, what is your one wish for them?
My one wish for your listeners is that just be inspired, be excited about what you do, and just get out there and do everything you can to help other people be excited about what they do. And if you do that, it's going to be an amazing place to work, and you're going to succeed as a school leader.
That's awesome, Rob. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you for taking the time to talking to me today in the podcast. Good luck in your new position. I believe it's Anderson Creek Primary School. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yes, sir.
That's correct. So that's awesome. They're lucky to have you. Good luck in your new position. I'm looking forward to reading, to keep connecting with you online. Looking forward to the podcast episodes that will be coming out this winter. And again, Rob, thanks for just adding value to us here. I appreciate you. And thanks again for being here on the podcast with me.
Hey, thank you so much. Well, and I love what you're doing, and I wish you all the success. Inspire Leadership is an amazing program. You're an amazing host, and folks, if you want to hear somebody amazing speak, you got to check him out. Like, I've seen video of him, and one day I'm hoping to actually sit down in person with him and have a drink and just kind of sit back and reflect on everything we've been doing over the years. So thank you so much, sir.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rob.